done a great job with his team, kind of working through all those. As you'll see, the high school, because we didn't have summer school there, is done a lot earlier than most years. So getting into the intermediate and the intermediate building and the junior high is where summer school was, so a little bit behind on those. But the lights are in on campus. You'll notice maybe if you're driving around at night, the parking lot lights dim after 10 minutes, so you may be driving and they brighten up. So that's kind of a different feature here going forward. The scoreboard has been installed, but we're still working it through that. I was over there with Mr. Best today. I feel like it's a little low. That needs to go up. And so it's about 2.5, 3 feet
This
low.
is the football field.
On the football field is, they're gonna have to extend one of those steel girders. They use one of the original ones, and I can touch the screen. It's
Oh, no.
and it's above the fence line, but we had a football championship banner that was about, I don't know, that tall. It needs to go up about that much, just to get up a little bit further. It looks good, but Ray's working with Pyros to, that's not acceptable where it's at, so we're working through that. A few other items, tuition rate for non-resident students for next year will be $10,020. The tentative graduation date will be next year at Jefferson College, May 16. So you can put that on your calendar, already talking about graduation for the upcoming seniors.
Started.
The footings, if I put this in there a little bit earlier, the footing for the marquee has been laid, so they're working on that. And then Monday, the administration, as well as I think there's 60 or 70 school-related people, sheriff's department, counseling groups, and providers will be at Festus at the Performing Arts Center for a school safety summit starting at 8 o'clock. So all the county schools, I believe, will be in attendance there. And so that'll be a pretty big event. So I included some information on that. So that's just kind of where we're at for the summer, and about a month away from the teachers coming back. So it won't be long. Yeah.
Already.
And then we get rolling.
I was wondering, the light stimming thing, is that part of that energy saving thing that like through
Yep.
this? Okay.
So when no one's there at night, they go down and then,
Did the Schneider people talk about that, or did the?
is that through that's Schneider that with their lights in the parking lots?
Yes. That is
Okay,
part of that.
I like keeping tabs.
So they have some kind of sensors?
I'll
So,
let
yes, they do. Each one has a sensor individual. We have the controller, so we can change it. We can actually shut off so many poles if we wish, not to come back on unless there's traffic. So we got all kinds, like there's
Oh, wow.
probably 60 different things we can do with these things now.
Play pranks with them even?
So no safety issues.
We can shut it off in the dark.
It's still gonna be lit.
But we have the controller to do all that.
How sensitive is that? I mean, is it like person size, car size, smaller than a person to set that off? Do we know?
I don't. Ray, have you tested
Sorry,
it as
I
far
didn't
as?
hear your question.
Have you, how sensitive are the sensors? Meaning, you know, just take a person size?
No, it has to be it has to be moving,
Okay.
and 2, it has to be probably at least the size of the car.
Okay. Okay.
So animals probably won't set them off.
Okay.
So now we can set it up that way with sensitivity,
Mhm.
so we can get the squirrel you set it off. But the sensitivity can change really tight. So
And we don't have them
we don't
going,
have that.
and we don't have them going all the way off.
No, it'll go down to 30. We can take them all the way off, or we can take however many poles we want to take off out of the line if we wish to do so. Right now, we're leaving them all on, just dropping them to 30%.
Okay. I just know there's people that walk up there and,
Yeah.
you know, someone jump out of the woods or something.
Yeah, the ones that walk and everything right now, if they stay around it too much, it probably will make it come on. But right now, it's like if they're just walking by, it will not sit, but it will not let them on. So.
Okay, thank you for your report. All right, We do not have any unfinished business, so we'll jump into the new business. The first item is to approve the board minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Board of Education meeting on June 23rd, 2022?
Second.
Okay, so that. Any issues with that, with those minutes? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed is 0 and 1 abstention. Okay, we'll get to our new language arts curriculum. This is the second read, and we will vote on it this evening. We need a motion to approve the English language arts curriculum as presented.
Motion. Second.
Thank you, Angie and Beth. Hopefully, if you had questions or issues, you have taken care of those, or they will be taken care of. Okay. Any other concerns at this time?
Not per se, I just, like I said, I have a lot of little things, but,
But she's going to address them for you.
yeah, I will say, overall, I think the standards get a lot of these things backwards. Like, and when we're talking about kindergartners and first graders, you know, having essential questions that are like, how do I express myself in my writing? And I mean, I truly agree with the, you know, the Sayers idea where kids are excellent memorizing machines when they're very young. They'll never be better. But you don't have the context to really express them. Like the expressive phase is almost your very last part of your schooling. And we're asking them to express themselves before, when we could be getting them memorizing wonderfully, like foreign words and, you know, all sorts of things. So I know that's not our ability if we're going to be following state curriculum, that we're tied to some of these standards, but just want to go on record as saying I think we're putting the cart before the horse on a lot of this. So.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, so the motion is to approve the ELA curriculum as presented. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 7-0. The next item ties into that. We need a motion to approve the purchase of the English language arts resources as presented.
Motion.
Thank you, Angie.
Second.
John. Mr. Lindhorst. Questions about any of that? All right. So the motion is to approve the resources for this curriculum. All in favor, raise your hand. Again, motion carries. Okay. And who knew we'd be to our last item already? But I need a motion to approve the grant donation and trap shooting team.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Discussion.
Does a student need to be a member of FFA in order to participate on this one?
This is a part of their curriculum, an offering.
The meets are all FFA sponsored. You can't have a non-member participate.
So is Jessica an instructor, gun safety instructor? That was one of the things that, I mean, obviously, we have lots of guns in our homes, etc., but this concerns me to, I guess, put that responsibility on a staff member.
I don't know that she will be the instructor. So like, as she explained it to me, when they have these different competitions and outings, like kids can sign up for like barbecue chef. There's
Sure.
different offerings. So when somebody likes to do the trap shooting, they have, Missouri Department of Conservation does training, so there'll be people leading that, certified, there's a certification that'll be.
But they're not here.
They're not, but they're not gonna be necessarily,
Practice.
they're not gonna be practicing here, obviously.
But on a range somewhere
We do,
close,
we
I
do
would
have a
think.
parent that is 4-H certified, that has been helping.
Okay, but 4-H versus gun safety?
4-H gun safety certified.
Okay, that's,
A gun instructor.
So like the shooting would be like at J-100, so they would be operating the range and all certified things working with the kids.
and apparently they've already competed, so that, how did that occur without having a team already?
Well, we didn't have, team is, yeah, I'm gonna, and I called it a team, Jessica
But it
was
was an
like, it
individual.
wasn't, it was like individual kids, they chose that, so they were like shooting already, I'm like, because they just, she's like, it was a part of my curriculum, they wanted to do them, like, all right, if we're going to, once, there was, we got the grant from the NRA, I'm like, well, if we're gonna have, school, and they, our insurance actually says you should have school have their own guns for that, own shotguns. Then I'm like, we need to make it a little bit formal, just from an insurance standpoint, et cetera. So they just, kids had signed it up and then went to these FFA events and they had signed up for it, just did it, so.
Now, who took them? Was it the parents who took them to those events?
Uh,
Like,
Parents went, but also it was, we took them as a school and they had signed up for those.
Because it was a FFA.
FFA functions.
so my question is, who's responsible for the supervision while these events are going on? And of course, the practice and of course, transporting the guns?
The guns won't be transported on a bus. There's a lot of times either parents can take them or they, as far as supervision, it will be Ms. Jackety as far as overarching, but it may be, I'm the Hillsborough sponsor, but I'm running a different activity. Mr. Stevenson may be running the trap shooting aspect of it, so 2 or 3 students may be over there on trap shooting. That'll be, it won't be like a team type thing, like a Coach Groundwork in an archery. It's a different format like that, as I understand it.
And where are the guns going to be stored?
They will be in a non-student attendance center. I'll say that in executive session,
Right.
just for
Yeah.
security purposes. So, but in a secure place where I'm
Locked up, safety, only certain people
Away from kids.
have access?
I would actually, Ms. Jackety, can you please come up? We're already to you.
The
Dan.
grant included a lockable family for the
Would you take us through some of like how FFA does with the trap shooting? Just because I don't want to misspeak.
So it's just part of their calendar of events. It's kind of like they have fall competitions and then they have spring competitions. So they treat it just like almost anything else. So you can go compete in dairy foods where you go taste different dairy foods and honestly you have to identify cheese. They can compete in meat evaluation. They compete in soils, in forestry, in livestock evaluation, in horse judging. I mean, you name it, they can do it. Trap shooting is just one of the things on their calendar of events. So it's hosted at different sites. They have district and regional trap shoots. They have meat shoots. It's just kind of something they've always done as far as I know. And when the kids got their options of stuff to do, of course, that was one of the things they saw. I mean, you have kids who go to Hillsborough who competitively shoot. And they're like, oh yeah, we want to do that. So I was like, okay. So Mark knew, so I had asked Mark, and he was like, yeah, go for it. So they signed waivers. We competed, the time that we went, we competed against Washington, Union, Herman, a lot.
So there was some questions about supervision and who would be doing it.
So I go with them. Almost all their parents showed up there. The trap shoots are run usually by gun clubs, And so like there's a very strict set of rules in, say, I don't know if anybody's been to a trap shoot. I had never been to a trap shoot, but I had to go because I was a sponsor. So like all the weapons have to stay unloaded. They have to stay in cases on either a rack if your team brings a rack, or on the table where the range master, or whatever they call them, can see them. Then when it's your team's turn, they unload their guns, they walk up, they all have to carry them up on their shoulders. If you don't, you essentially get asked to leave because you're not following safety protocol. One person shoots at a time. It goes off of when their call, so they call, the little speaker picks it up and the little clay pigeon comes out. Once they're done, they are not allowed to move, they can't pick up any shells. You literally put your gun back again, and the next person is then allowed to shoot, and you just go down the line of your 5 kids. And then everybody rotates to the next spot, because we shoot 20 rounds at a time, and then once everybody's shot, or it's 25 rounds at a time, once everybody's shot, then they're allowed to walk back in a line, put their guns back in their cases on the table on the rack, then you go back out, pick up your shells, and then the next team comes up. And those, like, they have to wear glasses, they have to wear ear protection, their parents have to sign a waiver, they have to sign a waiver, I had to sign a waiver, everybody's signing waivers. And they're always on, as far as I can tell from on the locations, because I looked them up just in case, they're always on gun club grounds, so they're never just like randomly somewhere else. So when we went, we were right outside of Washington as you go over the Missouri River. I think it's the Washington Claybusters owns that land right there. So you go literally right over the bridge, like maybe half a mile, quarter of a mile. That's right there on the right.
Very comprehensive.
They keep it really, and they have a really, really big emphasis on safety. Like that is their main thing, and they have no problem asking you to leave if you are not.
So if it's part of the FFA program, can you walk me through or help me feel more comfortable with how are the students, I guess, prepared before they go to a competition? Or what are they
All
taught?
all of these kids have all shot before. Their parents are involved in shooting. I haven't taken anybody who's not a part of it. And I honestly probably would never take anybody who hadn't actually shot or been a part of some kind of class before, just because I don't really know that much about it. Jim Grace at the high school, the roundabout way it came up, he's actually like a competitive shooter and certified in all of this stuff, and he's like, do you want help? Do you want like any advice? Do you want me to go over anything? And I was like, you know what, Jim, let's explore that option, because I don't know. Like, I go as a supervisor to make sure, because I know our kids and I can keep them under, know who's who and can call them out by name if I need to. But we pretty much had a parent rep there, a parent representative for every kid who went. They drove out there with them. So
They're getting their gun safety outside of FFA.
Yeah, we don't do gun safety. That's not really part of.
So if somebody didn't know anything and wanted to be a part of it, they'd have to find somebody outside,
They
Oh,
have
yeah.
to go
Yeah.
gain that gun safety or experience or learn how to use the gun first.
Yeah.
Before
So-
being part of the team.
And just one of the parents who went with us used to do like the shooting sports for 4-H. So, I mean, they have I don't know what you call it, but a thrower. They have a thrower at their house.
So do I.
And I was gonna say, and he actually I did not organize, I had nothing to do with it, but he actually invited some of the kids over because they're all friends, and they actually all shot with him at their house before we even went.
But my thought, and again, is I know with our other programs, any student can join a club or an organization or group, and there's some type of onboarding period, right? Where they're taught properly how to dribble the ball, or they're taught properly how to hold the bow and arrow. And it sounds like with this program, that isn't the case.
Well, this is not the main focus of the program, like by any stretch of the imagination, it's not the main focus of the program. It's an option for kids to participate in through the program, in reality. It happens that most of the kids who are interested are all kids who already do it competitively outside of school. I mean, travel literally all over the nation to compete.
And with competitions, you've got any competitive sport or activity, you've got auditions, tryouts, things like that.
No, I agree, but I also know, I mean, we're forming a team, right? And you want this team to be open to any student who has an interest, which means they would have to
You
join
can't do that.
FFA.
But
And not every student can join FFA.
Okay.
In order, so FFA is not extracurricular, just so everybody knows, not extracurricular, it's co-curricular. So in order to even be a part of FFA, first of all, you just have to be a part of the agricultural program. If you're not, I cannot roster them. So they wouldn't be able to do any of the team
Any of
competitions
the
whatsoever.
FFA programs at all?
No, no. Because their emphasis, one of the goals for DESI, for our program, I mean, they want you to have like 80% participation in FFA within X number of years as you start to grow your program. Because when you start getting into, so like like for business, that's that's a CTE program, so they have to take a test. Well, we went through lots of learning curves with the test, but one of their tests can be, instead of going to sit down and take a paper and pencil test, you take them to a competition and they compete at the regional level, and then if your team does well enough, then you go to your district level, and then if you do well enough, you go to your state level. Well, that qualifies as your test, right there. Can they actually perform a set of skills, whatever their focus is, and they can pick, we have to go, as an ag teacher, you have to go supervise, so I randomly got assigned horse judging. None of our kids went and did horse judging, but it doesn't matter. So, I mean, you go to Rolla and everybody divides off, and, different instructors take different kids, and we were on a private professional training facility, and they had horses out there, and they ran through, and the kids actually had to walk around, they had to give oral reasonings, that was their test. It's not paper and pencil, which is really cool for a lot of kids. It's a really, really different program, and it's taken me a very long time to wrap my mind around it, because I started traditional, but everything about it is different. And you can say, we're gonna go to a trap shooting competition X weekend, and that might be the only one you do the entire year, because they they pretty much stop in the fall. And so you might take 5 or 4 kids that one weekend. So there's no districts, they have a post shoot at the end of the season, but it's not quite like a team. I don't know how to explain. It's weird.
No.
Yeah.
And I'm wrapping my head around, it's kind of like if you want to compete in a cappella, right? You have to be part of the choir,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And have so many hours of practice in with choir to be able to go compete in a choir competition.
Yeah, so we're
I get it.
essentially setting our own, in order to go to this weekend, you have to have this. So like, I'm gonna take a team to go do dairy food. Well, shoot, I'm not gonna take a kid who's never practiced before, that's silly. So in order to go to dairy foods, you're gonna have X number, so you can set your own rules for, well, Joey wants to go, but Joey's never shot a gun before. No, Joey's not going. His parents have no history in that. No, I'm sorry, Joey's not going this morning. You're gonna have to get him
So
some
there's a
outside.
pre-rec that you're going to set up where they need to have some type of exposure.
Yeah, we'll probably just do what we
experience.
did last year. It was only open to kids who had had a history in it and whose parents had a history and knowledge in it, and then their parents went with.
And that's my question for you, is if you're comfortable as sponsor, as supervisor, as educator, in saying this student is not
Oh, yes.
prepared, not ready.
Oh, yes, I have no problem doing that. And most of the kids honestly, most of them are pretty self-aware.
Right.
So nobody really volunteered who, didn't really feel comfortable. Yeah.
And you're forming that relationship with them as early as day number 1 in FFA. You get to know those students.
Yeah, you get to know them pretty well, and then, if they stick with it, a lot of these kids now, I've had at least 2 years, some of them multiple times a day. So, like, I have kids next year, I'm gonna have twice a day, and I'm gonna have them for like a TA. So, when they're with me, programs like that, you're in a niche student group, and you just tend to have them over and over again, so you know them pretty well. And then you tend to get to know their families pretty well. So like, we're having an ag open house this year for all the kids enrolled in the program, because I get a lot of like parent emails about how great it is, and they would love to see what their kids are doing. So we're gonna do that this year, and it's different. It's good different though.
And I understand all of that, and of course, my concern was kind of for you, because coming from my background, I do think that's a family thing. I do think that's a family thing, and, I didn't want to put you as an employee responsible for teaching kids gun
Oh,
safety
no.
and shooting and all of that.
I'm willing to tell you when I don't know something, and I don't know that. So, but and I would have never guessed that about Mr. Grace, for example, and I learned something about him, and it's honestly, he really, really wants to help and be involved in that particular aspect. So I told him, great, I would love for him to come with us.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Thank you, Ms. Jackie.
Appreciate everything you're doing. Appreciate everything you're
Yeah.
doing.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
very much.
Thank you.
Should we consider formalizing a list of those volunteers that are associated with this program?
The parents that,
Are associated with either helping with gun education or anything of that degree?
well, they won't be helping with gun, because it's gonna be parents, it's gonna be changing all the time. So the gun education piece would be, that's us taking on the responsibility that, I said that Director Cruz was, you said that Director Cruz, I don't know that we wanted to do it, it's parents. I'd feel better with, if they're in shooting, the parents go with them.
agree.
Yeah, and you can also
think
say,
it should be in-
a lot of the kids have their hunter education
Right.
certificate, for example, because these are the families who are doing it. So you can even say like, hey, like the kids who go shoot competitively, they already have all of that stuff, so that can be a prereq. You just have to say, yes, you have to be able to supply your certificate before you're allowed to go.
I think that'd be the simplest.
Yes.
Is
I think it's
you have
provide a
to
prerequisite.
pass hunter safety.
Yes.
And then it's on them to go, if they want to do it, great, but they're gonna have to go do the legwork.
The only other comment I have is any volunteers such as Mr. Graves, who wants to help with the program, that he's vetted through our volunteer program. through our-
Well, Mr., he's a
He's an
teacher.
employee.
Okay, but any parent or anybody who wants to help with the program, be vetted through the volunteer program?
Yes, any,
Yeah,
yeah.
So they just-
Any non-school,
correct.
Oh, where they have to go and get like
we
their.
get background check.
Background checks.
So if they're just going though as a parent to just.
Yeah, if
watch.
they're going to watch, but if
Right.
they're working with our kids in a,
I got you.
Regular
Right.
basis.
Yes.
we'd handle
And I
that
do
just.
like the pre-rec of having that.
Yeah, and most of them have it, so that's not gonna be a big deal to implement, honestly, so. And it's good for them to go out and learn something new anyway, even if they don't have it.
Flamethrower if you want.
Keep it updated.
I'd like to get that on my basement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought you said flamethrower.
Might have one of those too.
Okay, any other thoughts before we vote? No, everybody's good? So the motion is to approve the grant donation and the team. All in favor, raise your hand. And the motion carries. Very good. So-
Move we adjourn.
To adjourn.
Okay, so I have at 7:32, John made the motion. Beth, did I hear you?
Yep.
Yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
All in favor of adjourning, raise your hand. All right, thank you very much. We are adjourned.
What was that for?